Welcome back, everybody. It is another edition of Sports Talk, and I got the hundreds of messages. I just want to let you know, Bobblehead Mitch is okay. I just forgot him last week, but he's back thanks to our intrepid cameraman, Dave Kennedy. From the Williamsport Sun-Gazette, I am Mitch Rupert. He is the one and only Dr. Chris Masse, and you're already rolling your eyes, which isn't a good thing, it looked like.
I wasn't rolling them.
We got another good show coming up for you this week, I think. It's never a guarantee.
If I'm here, it's pretty much guaranteed to be good.
Yeah, we're in trouble. We are full throat into the spring sports season. That is a weird saying. I have no idea why I wrote that. Spring sports in full swing, and Massey, we're kind of midway into the regular season for all our sports: tennis, baseball, softball, track and field, lacrosse. Some teams playing lacrosse. We just got through our second Pennsylvania winter. Little snow flurries on Wednesday afternoon. It's blustery and cold here on Thursday. But otherwise, things have been pretty good so far. And we got warm temperatures coming up. Otherwise, things have been nice outside. It's been a rather pleasant spring.
Mother Nature owes us this after. Yeah, I said it. One of the first games I said this year to a coach, we deserve 70 and sunny just about every day this year after losing last season. And it hasn't been that, but it's been pretty close, so I'll take it.
I'll take it too, that's for sure. We talked at the beginning of the season that this was going to be maybe one of the more difficult seasons we've had to predict what was going to happen, because we had basically two freshman classes coming in. We didn't know who was going to be good. We had an idea. So kind of where I want to get kicked off this week, Massey, is what have we learned through kind of the first half of the season? What are the definitive answers that you think you have so far?
Not a lot. If we're talking baseball, to put it in perspective, I think I've done 4 or 5 weekly columns now for the rankings, and I've had a different number one team every week, I think. Loyal Sock was the latest one, and they went out and lost to Southern Columbia. It was a good team,
right,
but they had a 6-1 lead. So I don't really, I think some of the teams I expected to be good are good. Newman, Montoursville, Loyal Sock, Central Mountain starting to turn it on, but nobody has asserted themselves as the team to beat, in baseball right now. Even outside, or maybe Central Columbia in AAA, but outside of that, I don't really know. I think Newman's the team to beat in Class A, and maybe those are the two knowns right now, that Central and AAA and Newman and A are probably the teams to beat in their fields. Other than that, it's wide open.
So that begs the question, is it wide open because there are many good teams, or is it wide open because we don't have the high quality level teams like we've had in the past?
Yeah, I lean towards the first one. I think there's a lot of parity, because I think a lot of teams have that number one guy, number one pitcher that they can rely on, and I think it becomes what do you have as a number 2, number 3 guy, and when you get past that, especially when you're talking teams playing 3 games a week or so, I think that's where you see some of these outcomes being different than maybe you expected. So I think there's a pretty good quality. I don't think it's a lack of quality teams this year. Maybe we might not have a dominant team, but I think the long answer to your question, I think, is that there's more parity. There's more quality teams this year than maybe in the past, where it was more top heavy.
You talk about Newman. Maybe that's one of the teams we know most about because their depth is so good, especially in the pitching staff. I want to talk about kind of the track side, because that's where I go a little bit. And the thing we're finding out, the thing I feel pretty comfortable in talking about, is that Lewisburg boys and girls are both really good. And the thing that has made Lewisburg boys and girls track for years so good is their depth, and that's starting to shine through right now. And we really saw it in the results last Saturday at the Jack Roddick Invitational down at Shippensburg, which is kind of a mini state meet, which I think we mentioned last week. Anthony Bangdia was a double winner in the triple and long jumps last week in the boys competition. Elena Malone, she's building off a state medalist freshman season for the girls team. And I put out a tweet on Wednesday about how in their dual meet, I think on Tuesday, Lewisburg had 5 runners in the 800 at like 2 minutes, 32 seconds or better. And that 2:30 mark is kind of the threshold of where I go, are you a contender or a pretender on the girls' side? If you can get under that 230, and they got 5 girls that were at 232. And that's why I say, that's why they're a threat every year to win a state title in the 400, 4x4 and the 4x8. On top of that, Jacob Hess is already one of the top distance runners in the country. We talked in the first episode I was on about him running 9:19 in the 2 mile, and neither one of us being able to run a 9:19 mile. He went 9:28 last week, and it's like, what happened? You know, like, yeah, that's still really stinking good. Matty Downs has been a really good thrower. If we're going to talk about programs with history and pedigree in our coverage area, Lewisburg girls track is right near the top of that. They're just awesome.
Factory.
Yeah.
Every year the names change, but the results don't.
Absolutely. On the tennis side, and this is something we haven't talked about a lot this year, but the next couple days there are some really big matches in tennis that we're going to see. Montoursville is 12-0. Yeah. They lead the district right now. Wellsboro is 10-0. They are second in the district right now. Williamsport is 9-1. Their only loss, I cannot remember who it was, and I forgot. I said I'll remember this, and I won't write it down. But they play Wellsboro today on Thursday in a great tennis match. The team tournament starts in 2 weeks, Massey, for tennis, and the tennis postseason always kind of sneaks up on us. Mm-hmm. But we're looking at 3 or 4. Lewisburg's been really good this year. Central Columbia is the only team that's taken 2 points from Montoursville, and Montoursville and Central play on Friday, I believe. This is going to be some really fun postseason tennis.
Yeah, I mean, the team obviously is going to be exciting with the teams you just rattled off, and then obviously all those guys are pretty good singles and doubles players to be racking up all those wins. So I think you're looking at a pretty deep singles and doubles tournaments too, so it should definitely be entertaining.
I think the number 2 and 3 singles players for Montoursville are both undefeated. Kind of their only losses in singles have come at number 1. They've only given up, I think, 6 points all year.
That's pretty crazy.
In team score points. So keep an eye on that Montoursville tennis team. They're having a really good year. Wellsboro, Williamsport, as we mentioned as well. So baseball, softball, that's kind of where your expertise lies, and we got the rain on Wednesday, which kind of gave you an opportunity to write a feature story instead of getting out to a game, and you wrote about Central Mountain's Aiden Major. Mm-hmm. Central Mountain is a team I think a lot of the district kind of forgets about, even though they're in the heartland. They do compete in District 6 and not in District 4, so maybe we don't talk about them as much. Aiden Major is a guy everybody should know, especially if you're in the Heartland 1. This guy is low 90s fastball, as you wrote about. He's committed to West Virginia, and he's helped take this Central Mountain team from a 1-3 start to now they're 4-3 with a huge game against Montoursville coming up.
Yeah, he's legit. I saw him. He pitched 2 innings against Jersey Shore the other day. I think they were going to go the whole way with him that day, but they got a 13-1 lead in the second inning and got him out of there. So now he's eligible to pitch tomorrow. But he brings it, as you mentioned, throwing in the low 90s. Mike Kramer, their coach, said they clocked him at 93 against Lewisburg. And he's just got so much movement on his off-speed pitches. He throws a changeup, a curveball, slider, and he buckles the knees. Mm-hmm. He spots them well. He moves it around. That's what I wrote about in the story is he's not a thrower, he's a pitcher, and he knows how to work hitters. And I only saw him for 2 innings, but it was fun to watch, and you can definitely see why he's going D1.
So that's kind of the next point that I wanted to hit on with Aiden Major is we've had plenty of guys who have come through the area in District 4 and have been hard throwers. But the guys who have separated themselves going back now 20 years, Ryan Kiefer at Southern Columbia, Dave Shinsky, who was a draft pick of the Twins, Colton Hawk, who's now in the Marlins system, even Kyle Datris, who ended up playing third base in college at North Carolina. Those guys that threw hard, they also had really good secondary stuff. And it wasn't the fact that they just threw hard, but they could pitch. And that's what Aiden Major seems to have.
Yeah, and that's the difference when you get to, especially the postseason. Mm-hmm. I mean, at this level, at the high school level, if you're throwing 90, you're going to be tough. But to truly separate yourself, I think you have to be able to pitch and have those secondary pitches that you can rely on. when you have that, that's what separates, I think, the good pitchers from the great pitchers, and that's what Aiden Major does. And I think he's a kid that is just going to get better and better. Just looking at his progress over the last 2 years, he's a guy that Central Mountain, I think, can throw out there against just about anybody and feel good about their chances of at least being competitive with anybody they play. So they've definitely got a horse to ride, and I think he's a guy that could make a name for himself at the next level.
Are you going to that Montoursville Central Mountain game?
I would love to, but Williamsport softball tournament.
Oh, that's always a big one as well. One thing to watch in that Montoursville Central Mountain game, Maddox Delana. Yeah. He's pitched twice this week, but only an inning and a third. Not sure if he'll pitch or not. 3 times in 1 week would be a lot, even if it's on short counts. But he's a UConn recruit because of what he does with the bat and playing first base. So him against Aiden Major may be a lot of fun. As we get to the softball side, hold on, I just got a message. Oh, Faith Persing just threw another no-hitter. That's right. Montgomery's pitcher, 3 in a row?
I think it's 3 in a row, and then she had 3 no-hit innings in relief against Muncie. So.
Yeah, I mean, what she's doing is getting to ridiculous level, and Montgomery is now 6-0 on this year, I believe, and 5 of them are shutouts so far, and they've got a win against a Muncie team that is looking better and better by the day. The way Muncie is playing, everything's just clicking for the Red Raiders right now.
Yeah, I mean, I saw her against Muncie and against Warrior Run, and Warrior Run can swing it a little bit, and they had no chance against her. She was a drop pop-up from throwing a 6-inning perfect game there, and again, I think it goes back to what we were saying about Aiden Major. She throws hard, but she's got other pitches too, and she works ahead. She does everything that a good pitcher has to do. She works ahead. She pumps the strike zone. She mixes it up. She locates really well, and I think she kind of has that bulldog mentality too. She's just a tough pitcher. When you've got that, it always comes down to pitching, especially in softball. When you have somebody like Faith Persing that you can rely on, they're going to be really good, or they're going to have good chances every time she's in the circle. But it's a good team too. I mean, they're one of those rare teams that still has a pretty good core back from their 2019 team. They still have about 5 or 6 starters that were on a state qualifier and nearly won a district championship. So they can swing it. They're well coached. They got some defense. It's a team that could definitely make some noise in the postseason.
If we're being honest, Massey, their schedule hasn't been the toughest schedule so far, but they've handled business, and that's one thing we always talk about. The really good teams handle business when it's there to be handled. But we're going to find out about them next week. Montgomery makes the trip to Farwell to play Bucktail on Tuesday, I believe, and that's where we're going to find out what this Montgomery team's all about.
Yeah, that's a big one. Bucktail beat them in the final 2 years ago, and that's. Bucktail can swing it. They're 6-1. Muncie beat them, but every other game they've mercy ruled their opponents. So that's going to be a battle. It could definitely be a district playoff preview, and outside of that too, they've really scheduled some good non-conference opponents. They've got Central Columbia on the schedule. They play Glendale, who I think either won the state title 2 years ago in Class A or was in the final. They've got some other good non-conference games that I can't remember right now, but the Bucktail games, they still have Muncie on their schedule, so I like what they're doing. I think they're thinking they've got their eyes towards June and trying to make themselves better. But going back to the original point, them and Bucktail is going to be a battle.
It's amazing how quickly we've gotten to kind of crunch time of this season.
In the blink of an eye, especially in the spring.
Yeah, and it's how quickly it jumps on you. Like it really is amazing how fast it happens. But this is when things get really fun.
Yeah, I love it, and I think in softball too, there's a lot of parity, just like in baseball, and I think that makes it really fun. Is that, like you asked me earlier, I don't know a whole lot about what's going to happen. I can't really make any playoff predictions or anything like that. That makes it fun to know it's kind of a crapshoot right now, and that whoever does advance out of District 4 usually has a good chance to make some noise at the next level. So it'll be fun to watch it all unfold.
3 weeks from the Heartland Conference track meet, 3.5 weeks from the District 4 track meet, 4.5 weeks to state track. I mean, wow. it all jumps on you so quick. But we got a big week, Massey, of sports coming up. And next Saturday is the Kentucky Derby, one of my favorite days of the year. So next week I will expect a pick from you, even though I won't be here. John Girardi's going to do this next week. So you're going to have to do your research and to get a pick.
That'll just consist of me looking for the best name and
Secretariat is not running this year. I have heard he is not eligible to run.
Yeah. He'd have a pretty good shot if he did, probably.
Yeah, he'd still probably be
probably
pretty
age pretty well.
That's going to do it for us here from this week's episode of Sports Talk from the Williamsport Sun-Gazette. He is the one and only Dr. Chris Masse. I'm Mitch Rupert, our good cameraman Dave Kennedy back there. Thanks so much for watching, everybody. We'll talk to you later. Have a good one.